When you lift your eyes to the night sky, you see stars that may have long since vanished. You are looking into the past, everyone says that, but what is rarely said, you are looking into the impossible, into something that exists neither now nor then. Because the universe is not merely distant, it is elusive. We live in a dying world, and not in a poetic sense. Literally, the cosmos as we know it is already vanishing. You exist on a glowing island, surrounded by a black, ever-growing ocean. This island is everything we can see, everything we can interact with, but beyond its borders, there is nothing. Not emptiness, but the absence of even the possibility of anything. Where did it all begin? We say, the Big Bang. But that word is deceptive. It wasn't an explosion in empty space. It was the birth of space itself. There was no point from which everything flew apart. Something arose from nothing, or perhaps from something so alien to our perception that nothing is simply the closest approximation. At first, unimaginable density, energy, light, inflation. In a fraction of a second, the universe expanded in size by trillions of times. Then it slowed down. Elementary particles began to form. Atoms, stars, galaxies, everything that would ever matter to a human being. But this triumph of Genesis already carried the shadow of destruction, because the universe doesn't just expand, it accelerates. The farther an object is from us, the faster it recedes. The expansion of the universe doesn't mean that galaxies are flying apart in emptiness, like sparks from a fire. The very fabric of space is stretching. It breathes, and with each breath, it becomes emptier. Scientists call the force responsible for this dark energy, not because they know what it is, but because they don't know at all. At a certain point, the speed of removal will exceed the speed of light, and this doesn't violate the laws of physics, because it's not about objects moving through space, but about the stretching of space itself, as I mentioned before. This means there are points in the universe from which light emitted right now will never reach us. Never. With every moment, such points increase. We are literally losing connection with the greater part of reality. Jazz Z 14-0, one of the most distant galaxies we've observed. The light from it traveled to us for 13.5 billion years. But during that time, due to the accelerated expansion of space, it managed to drift 34 billion light-years away. And if we set out toward it now at the speed of light, we would never reach it. Never is not a figure of speech, it is a physical limit. Moreover, over 94% of all galaxies that are currently visible to us have already passed beyond the cosmic event horizon. We see them like a dream that hasn't yet faded with the morning. One day, even their light will vanish. We will be left with an empty sky, alone. Because stars are not eternal either. Stars, like candles, burn out. Planets are either consumed by their suns or turned into dead icy husks. Even black holes, these titans of darkness, are not immortal. They evaporate, slowly, almost imperceptibly, but inevitably. Hawking radiation, faint, almost illusory, gradually eats away even gravity itself, and the black hole dies, simply vanishes into the void from which it once grew. And so, billions of years later, all that remains is a cold plain, space thinned to absurdity, filled only with dark energy. This state has a name, it de Sitter space, and it is eternal. In such a universe, it becomes impossible to distinguish past from future. Time becomes an abstraction. Its flow is defined only by the increase of entropy, a measure of disorder. As long as entropy grows, time moves. But once it reaches its maximum, everything stops. Time doesn't disappear, it simply becomes meaningless. This is the heat death of the universe, the moment when all possible processes are complete, when there's no longer any difference between before and after, between life and non-life. All energy is dispersed, all matter reduced to dust. No motion, no events, there is only one being, and yet, in this emptiness, in this timelessness, something might still occur. According to quantum theory, even in a perfect vacuum, fluctuations happen. Explosions of nothing from within nothing. On infinitely long time scales, even the most improbable phenomena become possible. For example, the birth of a new universe, or the spontaneous appearance of a single mind. This is the idea of the Boltzmann brain, a concept so strange that even physicists avoid speaking of it without a tremble in their voice. Statistically, the birth of a single human thought is far more likely than the birth of an entire cosmos, which means perhaps you're not a human being, but one of those fluctuations. Imagine a flash, and there is no time, no matter, no memory. There is only thought. You, not in a body, not in a room, not in a world, in nothingness. You are something that feels itself existing, without cause, without consequence, but with a terrifying sense of authenticity. You don't know who you are. You don't know how much time has truly passed, maybe an eternity. Maybe you came into being just a moment ago. You don't see, you don't hear, but you think. You are a mind born from fluctuation, a coincidence, incredibly rare, yet becoming inevitable if given enough time in the void. This mind could be you, could be me, could be anyone, and everyone at once. The terrifying thought, perhaps everything you remember your entire life, is just a starting illusion, hard-coded into the moment of your flashborn existence, a built-in context. And then, your pain, your joys, all that you loved, are not memories. They are improvisation, a quantum hallucination, a mind alone in the void, trying to understand why it exists. But perhaps the scariest part isn't that everything will end. It's that everything will return. Absolutely, without change. This is the idea that nearly drove Friedrich Nietzsche insane. He called it the eternal recurrence. Imagine your entire life down to the smallest detail. Every movement, every fear, every whisper, every glance, every choice will repeat again and again and again. You won't remember this repetition, but you'll experience it as if for the first time, because to you it will be the first time. No growth, no lesson, no next time, no more progress, only the circle. Nietzsche was not the first to suggest this. The Stoics whispered about it, the Hindus spoke of it, but to them it was comfort. The cycle, a chance to begin anew. Nietzsche looked into this circle as into an abyss. Without comfort, without salvation, without hope. He asked, what if a demon crept after you one night in your loneliest solitude and said, this life, as you now live it and have lived it, you will have to live once more and innumerable times more. Would you throw yourself down and gnash your teeth and curse the demon? Or would you answer, you are a god, and never have I heard anything more divine? It's not just a question, it's a test. He called it the greatest weight. If you can look at your life and say, yes, I want this again, then you are worthy of existence. If not, you are asleep. You have not yet awakened. To survive this thought, he imagined the Übermensch, the overman, not someone who can do everything, but someone who stares into eternity and does not blink. Someone who knows there will be no second chance, no pause, no justice, and says, yes, this is mine, I accept it all. And here you are, hearing these words, living this moment, making a choice. Are you ready to say yes to everything that is? Even this terror, even this hopelessness? Or will you turn away and live it all again tomorrow? Physics today suggests, perhaps at the root of time, there is no line, but a cycle. According to the model of eternal inflation, each universe gives rise to the next, like a pulse, like breath. And each time it's slightly different, or perhaps exactly the same. And now the question is no longer scientific, it's personal. What does it mean to be you in an infinite repetition? If you can be assembled again, from matter, from energy, from memory, does that mean you'll return one day? Or are you just a combination that will never stir again? Because infinity has no guarantee of repetition. The future of the universe is terrifying, not because it is cold, but because it is indifferent. It doesn't ask, it doesn't remember, it simply is. You think the death of the universe is a distant event. You're wrong. It's already happening, right now. With every minute, galaxies vanish beyond the cosmic horizon. With every breath, the universe expands. With every movement you make, you draw closer to its end. What awaits us at the finale? Endless expansion? A collapse into a reverse explosion? A deep freeze of all things? Physics gives no definite answer. Katie Mack describes a universe dying in icy silence, where even atoms cease to be. Freeman Dyson dreamed that consciousness would adapt, survive, invent a way to be, even in the void. But that sounds more like a prayer than a forecast. We stand before the abyss of time, and every scenario is either horror or emptiness. Or perhaps everything will return again? Eternal recurrence, flash after flash. But even if it does, will you want to return?